My honest opinion is they don't care. It's in some cases it's cheaper if no one ever plugs in.
Right,
so they're not financially incentivized to serve the end user.
Right. They're financially incentivized to sit there and never be used.
We see this far too often. Since we started this rate your charge thing, we have people tagging us on charging stations. I cannot tell you how many charging stations we found that have been installed 1, 2, 3 years ago that have never been switched on because they just got all the funding to put it in, big project, and they're just offline waiting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hey folks, today's episode is brought to you in part by Viori. I love Viori, and since we've started reading ads for them, I've gotten emails from a couple people who have bought Viori shirts and pants and shorts and loved it. I am literally wearing a Viori t-shirt right now. In this episode you're watching, I'm wearing a flannel overshirt and a Viori t-shirt under it. I wear them literally every day. It's a totally new perspective on performance apparel. It's perfect if you're sick and tired of traditional old workout gear. And yes, everything is designed to work out in, but it doesn't look like it or feel like it. It's so comfortable, you're going to want to wear it all the time. And in fact, I do wear it all the time. I wear it out. I wear it to work. I wear it at the gym. I wear it to Pilates class. I wear it under a sweater when I go to dinner. I wear it under a blazer. I mean, it's good for everything. It's incredibly versatile. It can be used for any activity. They're just the best shirts. And if you're like me, when it's hot out, you can get a little sweaty. And my favorite thing by far about Viori shirts, especially compared to like traditional cotton shirts, is they don't show sweat. It breathes great, but it doesn't sweat stain. You don't have those like pools of like water. It just somehow magically doesn't show sweat. It's great. It's designed to look great in everyday life, perfect for any workout. I can keep reading these things, but the bottom line is I have replaced 90% of the t-shirts in my closet with Viori shirts. They've also got the men's core shorts, super comfortable lined athletic short, good for any sport. I wear those when I go hiking. And then the men's Sunday performance jogger, which is what Zach wears all the time. He doesn't like jeans, so he messes with those pants. Good for lounging, working out, long drives, perfect. Also available as a short. I love Viori. They do a great job, and they got good sweatshirts and hoodies also. I got a Viori hat. You might be seeing that mustard colored hat, knit cap I'm wearing in some videos recently. That's Viori. It's an investment in your happiness. For our listeners, they're offering 20% off of your first purchase. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet at VUORI.com/TST. It's Viori, but it's spelled Vuori. VUORI.com/TST. 20% off your first purchase and free shipping on any order in the U.S. over $75 and free returns. Viori.com/TST and discover the versatility of Viori clothing. I love it. You will too. Also, of course, the Patreon. The best website in the world, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. You can get our podcast ad-free. You can ask our questions of our guests in a private commenting and questioning environment. You can get the live stream and watch our podcast live, interact with us live on the air. You can get an ad-free listening experience. You can get the show the same day it's recorded and not have to wait till Tuesday, Thursday. And our new, you get an extra podcast every month at the Pro Driver tier, and our new Championship tier, you get the Smoking Tire car review videos ad-free as well. It is excellent. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. All right. On this episode of the program, Kyle Connor is in the building. Now, Kyle has so many YouTube channels, I don't even know what to say he's from. Out of Spec Motoring, Out of Spec Reviews, Virtual Kyle. Basically, he's got an interesting strategy for YouTube, and he's going to tell us about how it works on this episode of the show. But more importantly, Kyle is really gone headfirst into the EV space. He is really forming a balanced opinion about how EVs work, how the charging network works. He has a new company called Rate Your Charge, allowing people to provide in real-time feedback on the charge networks. He's got a Rivian, a Tesla, a Twizzy. He's buying all these electric cars, like almost like a Consumer Reports of electric cars. And so we talked to him about all kinds of things related to EV, the infrastructure, the pros and cons, why you should or should not buy an EV, and more. He was actually the first guest in our new studio here when we built it, before we even opened Westside Collector Car Storage. And now he's back 2.5 years later with a big audience and a lot of EV knowledge to share. It's Kyle Connor from everything on the Smoke and Tire podcast. Here you are.
Cool.
Thanks for coming back. I think you were the first guest in this studio?
That's my understanding.
That
First
would have
guest.
been
We had messed up audio on it. The mics didn't work.
Oh.
Yep.
Jay Ryan was here, I think.
Oh, it was a Jay Ryan show?
I'm not blaming on him. I think it was new studio, new everything.
Oh. Did we have something to air, or did we throw it away?
No, we did.
Oh, okay.
It was fine. It just like sounded. I don't
just
actually
sounded
haven't
shitty.
listened to it forever.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, this time the things have been pretty well sorted.
Looks amazing in here.
That's
Last
good.
time I was here, the whole building was empty.
Oh, yeah, because we moved into the studio before we were allowed to open for business.
Right.
Yeah, because we were waiting on our certificate of occupancy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible seeing it today. A whole bunch of spicy stuff in there.
Full is good.
It's incredible.
Yeah, full means we're actually paying the bills around here.
That's what
Full
you
is
need to
good.
do.
So you're on a EV road trip, as you are known to do. Mm-hmm. And you got like, I follow you on Twitter, I follow you on Instagram. I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos. I've seen your YouTube videos, but I don't watch a lot because I just don't have time to sit down and watch YouTube videos. But as you came in here, you said you have 16 YouTube channels.
Yeah, let's talk business.
And
Yeah.
I just want to start with, why the fuck do you have 16 YouTube channels?
Right. So let's say 5 of them are active right now, really
Okay.
hardcore active. The others are I've sort of laid out this plan of how to conquer YouTube, if you will, in the EV space.
Okay.
Is our idea.
Okay.
And the reason for so many is really comes down to just security. As you know from your own channel, you get these ebbs and flows of channels perform well. You please the algorithm one month, the other month it doesn't do so well. This is what we found, at least. And having multiple channels, we found like, 1 month one channel might be in a dip, the other one might do better.
You diversified your investment of content creation.
Basically,
Whoa.
yes.
So it's not like topical or anything like that. It's just
It
like
is.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, it's all.
So do you have like a Tesla channel and a Rivian channel and a Twizzy channel and is that how that
channel.
works?
We need a Twizzy channel. No, so we have like an EV road tripping channel, which is how it
Okay.
started, which is called Out of Spec Motoring, and
Right.
that's like 1.5 hour, 2 hour long, super long road trips. And I think people honestly fall asleep when they click on these videos and just let the ads play through. And so that does really well. We try and do 1 or 2 a week, so we're
Okay.
just always on the road.
You make
whenever
one or
drive.
two fucking hour-long videos a week?
That's the idea. Yeah, 1 right now.
How do you ever make money doing that?
It doesn't cost anything to make the video because we're already going places.
Well, but doesn't editing a video that's that, or are you just not editing anything?
Yeah, nothing is edited beautifully. Nothing is shot beautifully. I mean, everything we do is shot on iPhone.
Okay.
So it's iPhone, AirDrop, load the clips in, Command T for cross dissolve, upload. I spend no time on editing. We have editors, but I edit most of my own stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that works. And then the reviews channel is the main out of spec channel, if
Yeah.
you will. That's like, close to daily content on some electric related topic, first drives, in-depth testing for range or charging. And then I have my own personal channel that's just like random antics that we do, play around with different cars, a lot of combustion stuff on there because our core audience is an electric focused audience, but I'm a combustion enthusiast at heart, so need an outlet for that. We have a new guide channel, which is pretty cool. So if you're listening and you don't know much about electric cars, Out of Spec Guide, run by my colleague Max. We just started it a few weeks ago. And it's all about the basics of EVs, how to charge, how to activate and electrify America charging station, basic stuff.
That's a highly variable topic.
Yep. We also have troubleshooting tips, know, and we try and take a realist approach that like it's early days of electric. And I think a lot of people jump into EVs maybe a bit earlier than maybe they even should. So the guide channels to sort of, hey, here's how you actually do this stuff.
Yeah.
The guide channel seems very necessary. Like it's not go to a gas station, put in gas. Like, we've learned all the problems with EA and other charging systems based on trial and error. But like when I did this hydrogen thing, I talked to these people that they didn't know why the problem was happening. They just knew there was a problem, and then like a guide channel would educate them on like, here's what's actually happening and why you're waiting.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. Actually, I've played around with some hydrogen stuff. We could talk about that at some point. It's pretty interesting to me. The idea for multiple channels, that's just a highlight, of some of the ones we work on, is that's too much content to load into one channel for two different levels of understanding of people.
Yeah.
That
the difference
channels
between
helps.
1 and 16. That seems like a lot.
Well, so yeah, let's say there's 5 active.
Yeah.
16's the master plan.
Okay.
So everything's reserved all the way down to the out of spec ranch.
If you have that many channels though, like out of spec, it's not a bad name by any means, but it doesn't say to me this is a channel on EVs.
Sure.
And you have an opportunity to name these things kind of what they are at this point. Have you thought about that?
I don't think the name of the channel affects the views that you get. I think it's very much, you can name it anything. You can name it, we thought about naming a channel ABC for the basic stuff. And or EV ABC, I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah. And also, we always say always be charging, so that could work. But I don't know if the name dictates who watches the channel. Like the Smoking Tire is a great name because you're going to get performance-related car reviews.
Yeah. It's also witty.
Right.
Based on the smoking gun.
Yep. But if you watch...
It's a double thing.
But out of spec, obviously, you have no idea. That could be out of spec anything.
Yeah.
But hopefully we get to the point where it's like, out of spec jets, let's review the new G6 or whatever it is.
Okay.
When we make it one day.
Look, there are channels
that
get enormous views that have very, very dumb names that people have been making videos since they were like 13 and like think we know who we're talking about, and they've got a fucking real stupid name, and a lot of people watch those videos. So maybe that's just something that's in my head and it's not real.
Ultimately, we just trust the brand and the name that's associated with it, right? It's like, I don't know, Aetna Healthcare or something like that. The name doesn't really matter. You just start to recognize the brand and the logo and the content they make. And I think in this space, like a lot of people have made their channels based on their name, like their own personal name. It wasn't like, what is the content you're making? And after a while, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think the name is something I put the least amount of effort or even thought into. So it's interesting you bring it up. I've got to start thinking about this. We have some stuff that's not branded out of spec. We have a channel called One Lap, which is sort of hot laps around tracks and drag races and stuff like that.
So you did think about it a little bit.
Yeah. But our branding really sucks. Just look at how bad our graphics are. No effort is put into making this look, I would say, premium or nice. What we've been able to do, especially with this reviews channel, is capture the nerds in the EV space and sort of dig into that.
They've got to be the fucking hardest people to deal with. They've got to be a nightmare.
We have a few.
Because every time I do anything with an electric car, we share our experience honestly.
Yes.
As best we possibly can. Like we just did a video that was a 2-year update on our Ford Mach-E. And a whole bunch of like real angry people basically accused me of being like dishonest. Because basically to get from where we are in Los Angeles to Phoenix, we did it in 2 stops. Because the traffic on that highway moves at 80 to 90 miles an hour. It does not move. Yeah. If you were to set the cruise control at 62, you could have potentially done it in 1 stop. But you would have semi-trucks like sailing by you, and they're like, it's dishonest of you to say this. And even though I said it takes 2 stops because of the speed we were driving, but people were just like, and I said, that this charging station, which can deliver up to 350 kilowatts if you have a Lucid or a Taycan. And if you could deliver up to 150, if my car, it was delivering 80, and I was like, this is okay, but like not great. They're like, well, if you had explained that your car had 43% charge,
Yep.
and so it's like I was being honest with my experience here.
Yes.
I was not being misleading. I was experiencing from a non-scientist point of view, and I think EV chargers should be labeled like octane is for gasoline. You put 93 in the pump. That's the minimum octane rating.
Sure.
That's not the maximum. It's
I
not
totally
like
agree
in
with
perfect conditions, this will
Yes.
be 93.
Yes.
But sometimes it's actually 87 coming out of this pump. They label this charger a 150, and I'm not saying I should get 150 all the time, but if you're getting 60 or 70 kilowatts, that is not a successful charging experience from the customer end.
Totally agree. I'm right there with you. I mean, you're following me on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm always complaining about chargers. I got a great story, which we'll talk about, that happened to me yesterday. Totally stranded in somewhere north of here. Don't even know the name of the town. But the topic of your EV experience as I would say, higher than average educated driver.
Yeah.
Especially with electric. I mean, you drive
Still
everything.
does not satisfy the EV nerds.
So now you know how tough of a task we have.
Yeah.
Which is everything has to be so detailed. I mean, I need to look at battery temperature on arrival, state of charge, the chargers.
I saw on your Twitter you put like, oh, there was some update in your Tesla that shows you all this fucking crazy information.
Yeah.
And I just looked at that and went, I don't need to know any of that shit.
You shouldn't. No one should need to know.
I need to know two numbers. What is the percentage that my battery is full, and what is the speed that it is flowing right now?
Yes.
Fucking don't even tell me the rest of that shit. I don't care.
Yes, and this is where we're trying to get to. So the problem, I guess, from our content side of things is our reviews channel has gotten so nerdy that unless we do all of those things, our audience is not satisfied. We have to go into thermal control, amperage rating for cables, charging hardware manufacturer, and I love, for me, I geek out about that. Like, I'm totally cool with
Let me tell
that.
you who doesn't give a fuck about this. My wife, who drives our EV 95% of the time.
And honestly, 9 out of 10 other electric car owners, especially here in California, just want to plug in and know exactly when they have to pull out.
Yeah.
And that's all that should matter. But unfortunately today, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Guys, got to take a break real quick for NASCAR, who has brought to you this episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast. The 2023 NASCAR season is officially underway. Coming off a truly epic Daytona 500 last weekend, the drivers will now make their way out to the West Coast, back to the West Coast, for some unbelievable on-track action at Auto Club Speedway outside of Los Angeles, which Zach is actually going to the race to see our friend Parker Kligerman race. Last year's race was filled with nonstop five-wide racing from start to finish, with 2021 NASCAR Series Cup champion and California native Kyle Larson coming out on top. There's only one more chance for the stars of the NASCAR Cup Series to take home the checkered flag on the famous 2-mile oval, so you can bet it's going to be a race for the record books. That's right. They are getting rid of that track, aren't they? They are de-NASCAR-fying it. I think it's going to stay an HPDE track so that people like us can go drive it. But this will be the last race for NASCAR at the current configuration of Auto Club Speedway. Check it out. Whether you're an avid fan or a NASCAR newbie, tune in to the NASCAR Cup Series race at Auto Club Speedway Sunday, February 26th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific on Fox.
Yeah, so charging, let's talk about chargers. A 150 kilowatt charger is, in theory, the maximum it can output.
Right.
And you know this better than anyone.
Right.
The car can accept a certain maximum given a battery pack is warm.
Yeah.
Given that you're at low enough state of charge.
Right.
And given that the actual cable attached to that charger, which is separate from the charger, can deliver the current needed to get to that point. And so what we're finding a lot of right now, especially with NEVI funding, which are all these new chargers being put in across the country, all these conversations, is you can have a 150 kilowatt branded charger, which is the nameplate speed.
Yeah.
But they're allowing for, I know, getting really
Some
nerdy.
garbage ass cables.
Yes, 200 amp cables, which on your car, on my Rivian, would be like 70 kilowatts.
Yeah, see, that's not fucking cool.
That
Whoa.
sucks. So you roll up and you're like 150 kilowatts, let's go.
Yeah.
You plug in and you're like, oh, why am I only getting 70 or 80?
Yeah.
It's because the cable's the limit.
Yeah, that's horseshit.
Yes.
Yeah, that like so many things with this, and I've said this shit over and over with the charging network. Like, it's actually not a technology issue. It's actually a customer relations issue. My expectations are not set appropriately.
Right.
My expectations are set extremely optimistically. When the stuff doesn't work, I'm not. I get push notifications on my phone for garbage, but like, I'm not going to get a push notification that says, hey, looks like you're heading towards this charger. Don't fucking go there because it doesn't work. You know, like, I have to read the comments on a charging station to know if it works. Like, why do I have to do this shit? Like, and it's not a technology issue. It's a straight up customer service issue.
100%. It is purely a lack of understanding how to serve the driver base.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started a new company-ish type thing called Rate Your Charge. Separate from Out of Spec. But Rate Your Charge is all about like, okay, let's do the rating thing because we need to rate.
Yeah.
But also the whole idea behind it is to hold charging network operators accountable.
Yeah.
If their app, if you roll up to a station, it says 5 are online, but you find only 2 are online
Right.
and there's a line, which happened to me yesterday. Well, that's just a straight up lie.
Yeah.
But that reporting metric is what's going to the government to get them funding.
Right.
And so we're like, hold up, this is not it. So yeah, we're getting users, really the expert users are going to be doing this.
Is it an app?
It will be.
Okay.
Yeah, early days.
Yeah.
Right now it's a Google form and a Twitter page, grassroots.
And also there's just, finding chargers is not, there's the PlugShare app is okay.
Yep.
It's pretty good. It's not perfect.
Yep.
But like Google Maps should be fucking better. Like we shouldn't need the PlugShare app. We should need just Google Maps at this
How
point.
crazy is it that Apple Maps and Google Maps are both so far behind in helping EV owners?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like you just got an update. I don't know if you have it on your Mach-E, but there's an update for Mach-E that when you use Apple CarPlay, it will show you your state of charge on arrival, which is like...
Really?
Yeah, it's on my Twitter.
Is it like just like in the last because I got a huge update like 3 weeks ago.
I think it's part of this. If you use CarPlay and you use native Apple Maps, I was just in my
you have to
friend's
use native
Mach-E.
Apple Maps.
Yes.
Okay,
which is a shame because Google Maps.
I use Google Maps.
Yeah,
and
of
Waze.
course.
Yeah.
But it's the start of the communication between the in-car.
All right, maybe I'll try Apple Maps. When Zach and I went to Arizona, we used the native Sync GPS, which does allow for route planning, and it shows you,
Yes.
Go here, stop for 20 minutes, and then you can go to the next one, and it does all that kind of stuff. But
Go to the It's Kyle Connor YouTube.
See, this is the problem. You got 75
Twitter page. Not YouTube. Yeah,
how often do you post to the wrong account because you forget to switch your
very
login?
often. Very often. You should see when I log into YouTube. No joke. You want to see this? When I load up
the which channel
the
switch.
which channel do you
So
load
long.
up? Hold on. Take a look at this. This.
Oh my God, that's crazy!
It's
dude.
like which
You got
one?
So many channels.
I had a lot.
So funny.
It's very convoluted. And what's funny is like I'm open. It's early days. We're messing up. We're having issues. Like I've only been doing this full time for 5 years, something like that.
That's so funny.
Yeah, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the Mach-E thing somewhere. This is when I was stuck at a charger yesterday. If my Twitter is only me complaining about
Well,
charging.
that's all right. I believe you that
yeah,
this. So if
yeah.
you use Apple Maps through CarPlay, it'll show your state of charge when you get there.
Yep, that's pretty much it. But that's like all that they have right now.
Yeah.
And I think it only works with Ford. So like,
Whoa.
This integration of, I guess my issue comes down to electric cars. Like I'm driving the BMW i7 this week. They rock. They're so comfortable. They honestly have plenty of range, I think.
Yeah.
It's not range anxiety anymore. It's charger anxiety.
Infrastructure anxiety.
Totally.
I know I can get there because I can do very fucking basic math. But
Yes.
what happens when I get there? That's my
Happened
biggest
to me.
problem.
Yesterday, I was like driving an i7 and I was charged up just enough to make it to San Luis Obispo. And I'm like, they have 60 Tesla superchargers there. It's a hub. Not one DC fast charger in the entire city for CCS.
Really?
Yeah, there's an EVgo. It's offline. And that's
Great.
it. So I had to leave it on a level 2 and like walk a mile and a half.
Oh, God.
And I was like, why? This is like the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
It feels like trick or treating. Like you're going to get to a house, you're going to get candy, but what kind of candy? Like there's a real variable here.
Might just be a wall outlet.
You might get an apple. That's what you might end up getting.
And like, I don't really give a shit if people buy an EV or not. Your personal car choice is not going to change or ruin the world.
Totally.
But it's just like when the governments get involved and there's incentives and there's mandates, well, now we really have no choice but to make this fucking thing work.
Welcome to my daily thought process.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we, first of all, there's huge incentives to buy an electric car. There should be, I think at this point, I don't see why our hard-earned tax dollars need to go to incentivize electric car sales for most of it. I think let's build the infrastructure, but this is such a long process. I mean, we could do a whole 4-hour show on what it takes to put a charger in the ground.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But it's just, from this building, the permitting process, getting the high
power. Well, at my new
there.
building, I considered, I was like, my new building, I have an 1800 amp panel.
Oh, damn,
Which
that's good.
this building, I only have a 400 amp panel. So we actually had to do, this is getting, 400 amps for a building like Westside Collector Car Store is actually quite low.
Yeah.
According to the city, you're only allowed to ever use 80% of your maximum.
Okay.
So a 400 amp panel really means 320 amps.
Right.
320 amps, when you've got giant hydraulic lifts with 20 horsepower motors like I have, the way they approve you is if you've ever, it's actually, if you ever seen the movie Apollo 13.
Yep.
Gary Sinise is in the simulator, and they only have, maybe it's 11 amps or 7 amps or something, a very low number of amps. And he's trying to turn one system on at a time without overloading the meter. And if he overloads, he's got to start all over again. So it's kind of like that, except when they test it here, they turn everything on at once.
Sure.
You hit all switches in the building, all systems, the same time, boom, hit them. You got to be under 320 for that.
So cranking amps, the whole bit.
Everything under 320.
All the lifts at the same time?
Well, they in the plan that was part of the plan. Every lift, which of course is impossible. I mean, I don't have 25 people working here running all these lifts at the same time. You have to have a human to do that. And so they were like, guess what? This is an impossible plan. So we have, and I can show it to you, we have a special electrical controller that will only allow you to use one lift at a time.
Sure, a switcher.
A switcher.
Yeah.
It is actually not a problem because we're a slow turnover business and you only ever need to use one lift at a time. There's no situation in which someone can't wait the 30 seconds to move the next lift. It just doesn't matter. But anyway, point being, new building, 1,800 amps, which is like, 1,500 usable amps. So we could do all kinds of shit. So I was like, bro, what's up with the fucking 50 kilowatt charger?
Be perfect.
Can I do it? And they're like, oh no, you sweet boy. You absolutely cannot have a fucking 50 charger.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but how much to put it in? And they showed me, and it was like $200,000.
Yep. What? And that's for a 50 kilowatt.
That's for a 50, for 150, one plug 50.
Yep. And I get annoyed when it's like, oh, okay, this is a 150 kilowatt charger. I'm like skipping those to find 350s.
Yeah.
And so the power requirements are getting insane. I mean, the technology is not the hard part here. It is all the hooking everything up on the back end.
I mean, most, if you go to a public charger, normally, like the one we went to in Quartzsite, you see the big fucking, I don't know if they're generators or transformers.
Yep, transformers.
It's not just the thing that plugs into the car. It's this whole underground network of conduits and wires and these big transformers, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, you really need 480 volt grid service in, and then you'll typically have anywhere from a 500 kVA to a 1500 kVA transformer. Then you have power electronics and switchgear.
Yeah.
Then you have the actual charging equipment, and then you have underground conduit running to the actual dispenser, which then charges the car.
But why do I find when these systems fail me, None of that shit you just described is the part that fails. It's like the fucking credit card reader or the screen or some shit that is like totally settled science at this point.
My honest opinion is they don't care. It's in some cases it's cheaper if no one ever plugs in.
Right,
so like they're not financially incentivized to serve the end user.
Right. They're financially incentivized to sit there and never be used.
We see this far too often. Since we started this rate your charge thing, we have people tagging us on charging stations. I cannot tell you how many charging stations we found that have been installed 1, 2, 3 years ago that have never been switched on. Because they just got all the funding to put it in, big project, and they're just offline waiting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's no
accountability to make the thing actually remain online for an ongoing period of time.
Yeah, this NEVI funding requires a 97% uptime. Mm-hmm. But what constitutes an uptime? And this has not been totally defined yet. A lot of times, if the grid goes down, then the charger companies, they have an out that doesn't count against their uptime. But we're not sure if that just means it's a little blip and they should have had some resiliency built into their install with a battery buffer or something. Yeah, charging is getting pretty crazy out there. We're going through a dark period. I mean, 2 years ago was the golden age of electric car ownership, right when you were getting your Mach-E. I thought was the perfect time to own and drive an EV. You know, we set the cannonball record in the Porsche back then, in the Taycan. I don't think it's possible to do it today because stations are getting crowded.
Yeah. So but also like, do you find that the general public puts, and maybe this is our fault, does the general public put more emphasis on the road trip scenario than as a point against EV ownership than they really should?
Totally.
I think they do.
Totally. Absolutely.
And it's partially our fault.
So I think 99% of the time, any electric car can do what you need it to do. And it doesn't make sense to own one if you can't charge at home or work, but there's so many people that can. You know, there's any EV that could be manufactured or sold can go to people who can charge
maybe not
at home.
100% adoption, but you could probably get 40% adoption from people with a home or work charging situation.
And it really, after spending this week in California, it really does not make sense to buy an electric car unless you have some form of reliable, consistent charging that is mindless, that you park the car anywhere, you plug it in, and it's great. And the ranges are perfect. I mean, I have an electric smart car that I keep at my house and charge it every 2 weeks. Things only got 50 miles of range.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I just go to Starbucks and back, go to the office back, whatever. So, yeah, finding the right car for your needs is important. And the road trip scenario gets a huge emphasis, but it is one of the hardest bits of electric car. Same with towing.
Right.
Any electric truck review, right, is, that's a piece of crap because it sucks to tow. And it's like, yeah, it does. I own a Rivian. I tow with it all the time.
Yeah, but like
it sucks.
Recent study showed that like a very small percentage of pickup truck owners actually tow anything ever.
Absolutely. And for the times that most people are towing, it's taking the boat to the lake 10 miles down the road, which any vehicle could do.
Yeah. We said that about Rivian. It's for that kind of thing.
Yep.
Because the chargers are not set up to pull up to one with a trailer. There's very few pull-through chargers. The one in Baker between LA and Vegas is the only one I've ever been to that was a gas station style pull-through charger. The rest are like nose-in parking spaces, really.
Right. Yeah, and Rivian's trying to build out their network. It's going a lot slower than they were expecting it to, which we could have told them early on. But they're actually including in many of their site designs a pull-through option. So Barstow has one.
Branded charger. Is it branded Rivian?
Yeah, it's a Rivian only. It's like its supercharger thing.
Rivian only
at this moment.
They need to make that fucking illegal. You cannot force people to buy electric cars like they say they're going to do in 2035 and then have fucking walled gardens of chargers. It's just not. That's not helping the goddamn environment to have walled gardens of charging.
I'm right there with you.
Assholes.
I think everything just needs to be fully open and compatible for all this to work. And so it sounds like Tesla is opening up some of their superchargers, but honestly a very small fraction.
Yeah, whatever gets them that subsidy, the minimum
Yep.
You know, for a while I would use terminology like the government was going to force them to, and it doesn't seem like either the government has that power or is willing to use it, but it is, you know, Tesla lives and dies on fucking subsidies, and so if they want those subsidies, they're going to have to open them up. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to charge fucking $6 a kilowatt to non-Tesla owners.
Possible.
And they'll go, it's open. We didn't say it doesn't have to be reasonably, because that's what they're doing in Europe.
So in Europe, you pay some extremely high price. I've charged a lot with non-Teslas at Tesla superchargers in Europe. Honestly, like the experience is great. It's the one you want to have. But then they want you to buy the monthly membership to buy down the rate.
Well, that's what it says on Tesla's website. It basically says, and it's there if you go look. It says at these supercharger sites, you can charge with a non-Tesla, and if you have something other than Tesla, you're billed for the rate to make it available.
Absolutely.
Like everything that Tesla has to spend to open this network to you
is
passed directly onto you with a little on top.
Yep. Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if we'll see many EV owners using the Tesla supercharger network. I think at the end of the day, what that does maybe to the peace of mind of CCS drivers is a backup option.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that can happen is just being stranded.
And honestly, like, I'm not like, you know, I'm a progressive. I'm not like yeehaw capitalism, but like accepting that we live in a capitalist country and you can only get private businesses to do so much. You know, the fact that they charge more if you don't own a Tesla. All right, like fine, like I get that, and is it kind of a shitty thing to do? Like, yeah, but like I understand that you paid for this installation of this thing and you're prioritizing your own customers, and fine, like that kind of makes sense. But to if the technology exists to have other people be able to use it, it should be there so people, like you said, don't get stranded as a backup option. It's like, all right, well, it's like when fucking right-wingers, every couple of years when gas prices go up and right-wingers lose their fucking shit about the gas station in Big Sur.
That's right.
There's always one.
It's like the $10.25 a gallon.
Yeah. There's always one story. California gas station has $12 a gallon. They're like, oh, by the way, it's the only gas station for 60 miles in either direction. And if you don't plan for it and you fucking need it, that is the capitalist what the fuck you gonna do station.
And I have been in that position far too many times.
Yeah, if you need it, like, you're eating that dick.
That's right. You just get so screwed there.
Yeah, they never mention that in the story. California is fucking crazy. It's like, bro, if you go to Oklahoma and there's one gas station in a 100-mile radius, that dude's like, cha-ching.
Absolutely. So on the topic of Tesla, have you driven any modern Tesla stuff recently? I know you drove a Model 3 Performance a while ago.
Well, I had a customer here who had a Model S Plaid that I drove briefly.
What do you think of that?
I don't love it.
Yeah. What about it?
Well, compared to the other very expensive electric cars that are available right now, it feels like a dated product. You know, everything is a dragster. So if your car is a tenth or two faster to 60, then I don't give a shit. The steering wheel is a joke.
Oh, it's terrible.
That's a comically poor decision.
So bad
that they are quietly walking back.
Yes.
And it's, you know, it's still a nice car. It's just some really, in my opinion, poor decisions have been made, and it feels dated. Whereas, you know, the Lucids, which they miss in a few places as well, but it feels fresh and new and innovative. The Rivian is a shockingly nice product. You can't believe that's their first car. It's built so nicely,
and they're reliable. I've put 30,000 miles on my Rivian.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And my Ford, and people say I'm paid by Ford. Like, I'll fucking show you the stubs. I pay them $800 a month.
Yes.
Eat a dick. My Ford is built so much nicer than any Tesla that I've driven. And
Totally.
It's $53,000.
Yep.
and it goes 300 miles on a charge in urban conditions.
Yeah.
And so, like, if people like their Tesla, like that's fine.
Doesn't affect you what they drive.
The number of fucking Ubers that I've taken that are Model 3s now. In the past 6 months, it's been a huge shift. In
totally
LA,
agree.
Dude, Model 3 Ubers like, all over the place.
It's the same in Denver. Every Uber is a fleet Uber. So the Uber, I guess you can rent it for a week.
Yeah.
And then the whole...
It's like $200 a week or something.
It was
rent them.
originally Kia Niro Electrics is what Lyft used in Denver to like pilot this rental program. Now it's Model 3s, and so in Colorado you get red plates if it's a rental.
Oh.
So you can be like, rental car, like going up into the mountains, you're like, they're definitely not on winter tires if it's a red plate.
See, they used to make it. Is that if it's a ride share rental or any rental car?
Any Hertz, whatever it is, Enterprise.
See, that's interesting because I remember a law that made it illegal at a certain time to identify if a car was a rental. Because they were getting broken into. Because it was people on vacation.
Yep.
And you go, oh, that's a rental. They probably got their luggage and shit in there. And they break into it.
Yeah.
And so for a time at least, it was illegal to identify a car as a rental. Now, then they started sticking the little barcodes on cars.
Yep.
And it was sort of like, oh, you know, you couldn't, it didn't say Enterprise on it, but it was, there were indicators. The fact that that a statewide thing is putting a rental license plate on it.
Red plates are rentals in Colorado.
I'm very surprised by that.
Well, it's all fleet usage. So you can have like, you'll sometimes see like a G63 with the red plates because you know the dude like has 90 F250s.
Right.
And like just, let me add that to the list.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And he wrote that thing off for a fucking
Section
gross
179.
vehicle weight tax
Yes.
deduction. Depreciate that bitch first year, baby.
I saw a 4x4 squared with a red plate. I'm like, I know exactly what is going on here.
That is funny. You can really identify the fucking tax scam with that one. That's hilarious.
Absolutely. Yeah, pretty wild.
Oh, so that's the mountains
the
are
fleet
red.
plate, yeah.
The mountains are
It
red
says
instead
fleet
of
FLT on the left
Yep.
side.
Oh yeah, wow. How about that?
Yep. So you see every Tesla in Denver now is
That's
a red.
so interesting.
red plate
because they're
Model
renting
3.
them at Hertz.
Yeah, and they just supercharge them, clog up all the stations, and you know, EV. Like I said, I think we're kind of past the prime. I'm an EV lover, obviously, but it's if you don't charge at home and you do a lot of trips, it's getting a little bit annoying.
You asked what I thought about current Teslas. Was there something you think I should know that I'm missing out on?
No, I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up. I've been driving this Model S Plaid that I brought over, and we bought it to make some videos with, and haven't driven it that much. It kind of sits around, but I've got 7,000 miles on it in almost a year now, and this trip has been pretty eye-opening. I also have the BMW i7, which costs $600 difference to the Plaid. So they're identical
Total,
price.
not per month.
No,
Total.
Okay. Between my car's sticker and this one. Now, Tesla's recently lowered the price of the Plaid, so it's a less expensive car. But really, just the quality of Model S is gone downhill massively, while I think Model 3 and Y have gone uphill massively. A friend of mine just got a brand new Model 3 Performance. We have a detailing channel and, you know, paint meters and panel gaps and all the stuff that Tesla people care about. Car was perfect. It was so well put together.
Where was it built?
In Fremont.
Okay.
Yeah, which was surprising.
Is it still in the tent? Or have they
Who
built
knows?
a real building?
I don't know.
No one really knows?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really follow it that closely. But I do know that whenever this car, you know, its design intent was right on point.
Okay.
And then, you know, comparing it to my Model S, which costs 3 times as much, you get a significantly worse product. Creaks, rattles.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, seats are
I
wearing.
had a Model X as an Uber Black.
Okay.
It was a Model X.
Okay.
Holy fucking rattles. Oh my God, this thing rattled like crazy. I mean, you just look at it and you go, well, that's not going to hold up.
Sure.
But I was
Especially
actually
the
shocked.
early one. Well, the early ones were never delivered good. I had a friend who got...
Oh, the door handles. How bad of a design decision was it to actually have a panel mismatch indicator like those door handles? That was a conscious choice somebody made. Isn't that amazing?
The door handle thing, but even worse than that, a friend of mine was taking delivery of one of the first Model X's, like in less than 1,000.
Yeah.
And the door went to go close in the delivery bay and went sideways and crashed into the car.
Oh, no.
And we're like, okay, this is maybe not a good idea.
Yeah.
I've driven a new one of the refresh ones, thought it was pretty good actually, but I'm not a Model X guy.
Our customer had a Y here. It's okay.
Yeah.
It was fine. we have a client here with a Lucid who had a Plaid and crashed it because he was making a 3-point turn and the wheel wasn't where it was supposed to be.
One of my colleagues crashed my Plaid into a curb, ripped the wheels off of it pretty much.
The same way?
Ooh.
We're not 100% sure. The steering wheel kind of came up, and I was like, I don't know. It was a track mode situation.
Yeah, you got to be
like
going
not,
quick to take the wheels off a car.
Yeah, it wasn't good. So that's also why the car doesn't have that many miles on it. But yeah, I don't think the wheel helped.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
But I mean, that car in 2012 to 2014 was innovative and well made and looked great.
Still looks great.
Still looks great.
Yeah, still looks really good.
It turns out if you copy Aston Martin from the mid 2000s, like that's a good looking car.
They've made it evolution just perfectly. I think the car is the best looking Tesla. The Model S.
They do look nice.
Yeah,
the Plaids. It's a nice looking car.
Yeah.
I will give them that.
Yeah.
But drive a Taycan, drive a fucking BMW, drive the Audi e-tron.
But then go and charge those. That's the problem. It's like, so the reason I have the Model S is because I'm like, if I have to go somewhere, it's like I'm either going to take my old LS 400, which is combustion, or I'm going to take the Model S because it's got huge range, charges really fast, and I guess a lot of people are like, oh, it has autopilot, so it's good. We can maybe talk. I rode in a Waymo this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
Talking about driver assistance systems. Really interesting. The whole experience was wild. They've just opened in Phoenix, like anyone can ride a Waymo now. So we just downloaded the app, didn't talk to anyone ahead of time.
Is it a Waymo app?
Waymo One app.
Okay.
And we compared it to Uber a little bit. It was like $4 more than Uber and took longer for it to get us to the destination and to pick us up because I guess there's only a few vehicles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
But drove pretty great.
It drove well?
Drove really well.
There was a monitor in the car.
Nope.
No human in the car?
We have a whole video. Yeah, it just went up. We took the same one twice. We took it on the way to our destination and had dinner, and then the same vehicle picked us up and brought us back to where we started. Drove about 30 minutes round trip. And yeah, it's not perfect. It phantom brakes a little bit.
Oh, really?
So you'll be driving and it's like, not full ABS, but definitely hard brakes.
For no reason.
For no reason. And you can kind of tell, like, okay, maybe there's a car that's just a little bit over, but it's very weird. And what else did it do? Do some weird things, like just hard throttles out of nowhere. We're in a Chrysler Pacifica plug-in, which I did not know were that fast, but like this thing rips. So it gets to 45 really quick.
They just recalled all of them.
I heard about this, yeah.
Yeah, my physical therapist got his bought back in lemoned about a week before they announced the fucking Model Y
Dump that
recall.
thing.
Yeah.
Because once it's recalled, there's nothing you can do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he paid over for it, and he got his ADM back too.
How's that possible?
That's how it works. If you get a lemon law buyback, they will fucking pay. They pay your
give
ADM.
you the money you
So
paid.
everyone who paid
you know what
over,
I learned about
bringing it in
this?
for service.
If you pay ADM over, it goes to the dealer.
Right.
If they buy it back, the ADM that you get back comes from the manufacturer.
Oh, well, the manufacturers must really. I mean, we always hear from like the PR people, like, there's nothing we can do, right? Like, we hate it. We try to discourage it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that
that's how
there's
that
got to be
happened.
some back end like checks being written.
Yeah, because the dealer's not buying it back, the manufacturer's buying it back,
right.
And they have to pay you what you paid.
Oh my God!
So when I learned that, I was like, oh shit! Yeah.
So how many Land Cruisers went for like 60 over in the last year? Just start bringing them in for service.
Was there anything you liked about riding in the Waymo more than riding with an Uber driver or Lyft or something?
Aside from novelty.
Well, novelty for sure, but you don't have this stinky dude sitting in the seat, right? Like, you have the vehicle to yourself. But it definitely feels like whoever, I don't actually know how they trained it. I'm not an expert on, Waymo systems, but it feels like they had a whole bunch of Uber drivers drive the van and use that as their model, and then now it drives like an Uber driver, just like jerky and weird movements and stuff. So like
they
it's
designed some
like,
human into it.
Yeah, like
Don't make it
describe an
perfect.
Uber
Guys,
driver.
this is too good. Make it shittier.
Exactly.
They're gonna think it's a computer.
It was impressive. There was one left turn that really freaked us out because there's no way to tell the van not to go.
Oh,
when you're
shit.
in the van, there's no stop button.
There's no button?
There's no button. and there's nothing you can do. And we were in the middle of it.
Are you literally divided? Like you couldn't reach forward and touch controls if you want. There's a plastic divider, or
yeah,
no?
but it's like hanging from a string. You could rip it and just take it, but you wouldn't have time.
No, I'm just saying, like if you wanted to be a shitbag,
you could just steal it.
You could. Okay,
you could just hop in and yeah.
I mean, they'll track it. They're tracking the hell out of it.
I guess I was pretty. There were so many good things about it. It definitely was like a look into the future because there was literally no one involved. We rode back at nighttime after dinner, and a couple times throughout the drive, they kicked on all the in-cabin lights while we were driving, like full brightness, and then went in-cabin check, and then shut them off. So I imagine that was someone logging into the van, spying on us.
Or
are you copping head right now?
Right. Yeah.
Are you doing
this
drugs
was the thing.
right now?
It's like there's so many things that people could do maliciously to these vans. One, and I don't want to air it, but one concern that I was with my friend Anna, she had was there's nothing like stopping anyone from just pulling in front of this thing, stopping you. Right? And just you could rip open the van, rob you, whatever, and go. Because there's no evasive action the van could take. And it's a bright, like that's a Waymo.
It's clearly labeled. Yeah.
So there's a lot of, it's early days, but I thought it was a really cool service. Honestly, props to them for opening it up. I felt really safe the whole time except for that one left turn, which wasn't even that bad. I think I'd love to have like a stop button or something in there to be like, yo, don't go.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that you don't have a button that's like
emergency stop, like a bus.
Either an emergency stop or a way for you to go. Maybe it's through the app where it's like, rate your ride, and you go, actually, the left turn onto 64th Street was a little sketchy.
Yep, they're looking for all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want you to, they say, tell us everything. Thought it was really good. One thing I actually want to do, which I think would really be an interesting video, is to take a Tesla with their FSD beta and take a Waymo, set both to the same destination, and see how they both drive in the same area.
Yeah.
Could be
I just saw a photo of a
sure.
Cybertruck prototype with LiDAR shit on it.
Dude,
so it's.
Can I tell you, this is why I brought up autopilot originally. I drove the Model S here. And are you familiar with phantom braking?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can't tell you how many times, and I upgraded brakes on the Plaid, so it's 50% brake application.
You've upgraded brakes?
Yeah.
What did you get, the ceramic things?
No, I'm not. For that application, wasn't super into it. It's a company called Mountain Pass Performance.
I've heard of them, yeah.
They're great, hardcore racers, really love their stuff. And they don't put the Porsche tax on Tesla products. So it's like really, just to make the cars better. Just front and rear.
It's like the Colorado version of unplugged performance,
basically,
right?
Yeah. They're in Ontario, in Canada. But yeah, similar.
Yeah,
it's same stuff. Unplugged makes some great stuff too.
Yeah, they do make good stuff,
really
actually.
Good stuff.
And the guy from Unplugged was like, you really want us to send your car here, not because we make good parts, which we do, but because we nut and bolt the whole cars, and we find missing hardware in like 50% of the cars. Yeah,
they do when you do their full program, it's very intensive and really very high quality work. But
so what are the brakes you get?
Oh, they're just big steel set up pad, rotor, fluid lines.
Stock caliper.
Stock caliper. Caliper is not the issue on that car, but the brakes suck from the factory.
The car's not
it's
that
very
fast.
important. You sell a 1,000 horsepower car that has fucking garbage brakes.
Preaching to the choir. I showed it too. Like I've done a couple like hard brakes. You get one stop.
Yeah.
One stop, and then there's nothing left in there. Now we can
the braking power of a Ford Expedition.
Basically, but you got 1,000 horsepower. The thing gets 170 miles an hour like that. So we've done track days with the brakes. They've held up pretty well so far.
Cool.
But phantom braking's crazy. So Tesla removed the radar for their newer stuff.
I love when they decide that they don't need safety critical systems. That's
Which I guess
it's my favorite thing about
Tesla. It sounds like they're going back to radar with hardware 4. That's all rumors. We're not totally sure.
It's like Twitter being like, no two-factor authentication for you unless you use Twitter Blue.
I saw Marquez's tweet about that. He's like, just don't take away features that people used to have.
Yeah.
And then make you pay for them.
Yeah.
Now. That doesn't...
You're holding shit hostage.
Yes.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So, phantom braking was bad, but then drove the i7 yesterday, did 300 miles in it yesterday.
Phantom braking?
Not one.
Yeah.
It's so good. Lane changes automatically, has augmented reality. I think autopilot actually is... for highway usage, not nearly as impressive as some of these newer systems coming out.
I think GM's Super Cruise is the best one I've used so far, and I have not used BMW's yet.
You have to get an i7.
Okay.
And you have to do their driver assistance.
Okay.
Super Cruise is great, but pre-mapped only.
Yeah.
And so BMW
Oh, is the BMW's open world?
lets you go anywhere, but it'll do hands-free on pre-mapped.
Okay.
But GM doesn't let you go just basic lane centering. So like where I live in Colorado, there's very few roads that are pre-mapped. So when I'm driving Hummer EV a few weeks ago or a Sierra or whatever, one of those Denali Ultimates, I have to steer the whole time. And I'm like, all I want the car to do is stay in the middle of the two lanes and keep me a distance to the car in front. And so Ford lets you do it with Blue Cruise. You get basic centering. Without map.
I try to use Blue Cruise, and I actually don't love it.
Me either.
The lane centering is not great.
Yep.
It's only okay.
Yep.
GM's was much better.
Totally. Yep.
But honestly, like in this sort of in-between thing, like if I can't look at my phone or read a fucking book, and I'm not talking about going to sleep. I'm talking about being in the driver's seat, but able to do something for a few minutes. I'll use radar cruise control and just steer.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I'm less stressed out by steering than I am by having to be ready to take over at milliseconds notice.
This gray area that we're in is pretty complicated and confusing. And everyone's got a different take. I don't know. I think Volkswagen's Travel Assist actually isn't bad. BMW's was amazing. You really got to try that system. iX or i7 has, I think, LiDAR built into it as well.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's pretty sweet.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then you get the augmented reality and the head-up display. It tells you where to go, all that stuff.
Yeah, what did I just use that had augmented reality, but it was kind of janky? Was it Mercedes? I think it was Mercedes in the EQE had it, but it wasn't good.
Did you have an EQE at night? Did you drive it at all?
Fucking disco.
Yeah. Well, first of all,
the whole disco dash was crazy.
And did you ever see the headlights with the turn signal in that car?
Yeah.
It shines the turn signal on the road in front, which is like a Euro thing that we've never had.
It is pretty cool. I mean, the EQE, like, I like the EQE better than I like the EQS.
Me too.
I hate what they do with their brake pedal. I think it's so dumb.
So it falls away from you.
It's so stupid.
Who thought that was a good idea?
I don't
Try
know.
to catch me, ha ha! Like,
so maybe for the viewers who don't understand, we should maybe explain a little bit.
Sure. So in the EQE, when you have regenerative braking on, and there's multiple ways to set the regenerative braking, the adaptive regenerative braking is awful. It is. Imagine regenerative braking is only good when it's consistent, predictable. When I can go, right now I lift off and the car will, but it chooses how much to use in this mode. That's terrible, and it always is changing.
Right. Well, it actually, when I'm just mindlessly driving, and I've done a few thousand miles in these Mercedes EQ cars, I think it's on adaptive cruise control sometimes. Right. And I'm like, right at 5 miles an hour, I'm like, whoa!
Yeah.
Where are the brakes?
Because it doesn't always, it gives you a variable a rate of regen, which fortunately you can change the mode so it doesn't do that, and it's consistent.
The paddles on the wheel.
But it's a nightmare. Yep. So don't use that mode. But anyway, when you have the regen on, as it applies regen, it moves the brake pedal.
It's like a ghost is braking for you and moving the pedal.
They use an eye booster.
I don't understand why they do that.
Yeah, so their braking strategy was with an eye booster, which is the first bit of the pedal controls the regen, and then it blends to friction brakes the harder you go. The only time Mercedes has a good brake pedal is under an emergency braking scenario.
Right.
Because it boosts up, you get great ABS feedback, one of the few EVs with a good hard braking brake pedal. But that middle ground, so I end up driving them
The EQE I drove was the AMG with ceramics too.
I haven't driven that. I drove the EQS with ceramics and thought it was worse.
But do the competitors like Taycan, do they not have that system where it's regen braking and then at a certain point the threshold is caliper? Because I think theirs feels seamless.
Yeah, Porsche has done a really good job, and they have similar strategy, yes, but a different mechanical system. Porsche has to do their steel brakes, their PCCBs, and whatever that middle option is.
The white brakes.
Right, the surface coated brakes. Yes.
PSCB.
Right, it's always Porsche some acronym.
Yeah, Porsche surface coated brakes.
Yes, and that's the hardest one. I was talking to their brake engineer to tune because it's such a hard surface and changes based off of temperature. So with all of their algorithms to control what you feel with the brake pedal to give a consistent experience requires like so many modules and tuning. But Porsche got it right. That brake pedal on the Taycan rocks.
Yeah, the Taycan is dynamically the best EV that there is right now.
Totally.
But with the Mercedes, first off, Did you do a launch in the AMG?
Many times.
Did it make does it make the Star Wars sound like it plays like the Star Wars theme song?
It shakes the motors.
Yeah.
It grabs the seat belt, and then you get Star Wars noise, swords in the background.
It's like fucking real George Lucas shit.
Yep.
It's so funny.
It's the first thing I show to everyone, and literally everyone's reaction was, okay, that was really dumb. And it's not fast. It's not fast. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, once you get out of...
The EQE feels reasonably fast.
Okay.
It's definitely faster than the EQS.
Yeah.
But, like, it's a lot of drama for what ultimately is, you know, medium fast performance.
I worry about the Germans if this is what their idea of features are.
Well, you don't want a German to build whimsy into anything.
Right.
You know, like, I think Elon Musk is a bag of shit, but those Spaceballs references in the beginning was like, yes, I've seen Spaceballs too, and I get this, but you don't want a German putting jokes into the car. That's bad.
Do you know Mercedes had 200 sound engineers working on their EQ program?
And
200.
that's what you came up with.
200. So not only do you get that, but you get stuff that you don't really notice unless you have the car in a quiet environment. So like if you have the passive keyless unlock in an EQS, the car starts humming at you. It goes like whoa, whoa, whoa from the outside. It gives you this aura.
To tell you it's unlocked.
Yeah. And so like all of these sound sequences happen. And I'm
really
like,
funny.
you know what I really want in an electric car is just everything off and me to go.
Yeah,
that's
like,
the point of an EV.
Yeah, silence is the thing I want from this. But I did like the disco dash lights.
Yeah,
the
sure.
nighttime like weird thing.
You put it in the submarine mode, that pink and blue,
dude,
red.
It's fun.
It's
pretty.
It's a lot. It's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it's pretty. It's also kind of like, oh, all right.
Your night vision is not
see
great.
what's going on.
You're never
here.
going to miss anything in the cabin. You're going to find everything.
Do you think, like, going back to whims, like, you don't want all these noises and things?
Yeah.
But is that because you're informed and experienced and you've driven all these things, whereas a new customer might be like, wow, like they like the shiny shit?
I mean, the people buying these cars are not new drivers, first of all, from a Mercedes standpoint or a Taycan. These are people that have owned, you know, maybe E-Class for years and they're jumping into an electric world. I don't think any buyer wants this stuff, at least not in our market that I've seen.
It's like the companies, the German companies, are trying to build whimsy like Tesla, like fishing lures.
Yeah.
But they're just not doing a great job at it.
Right.
And the customers, I think, like you said, they don't care. It's a more mature, well-heeled
Rivian's
customer
got the
that buys
bird
Mercedes.
chirp when you unlock the doors.
Yep.
Which
bird
is
chirp.
That's not helpful because what if there's birds around? I didn't like that sound.
When that guy
happened.
said to me when it chirped, and I was like, "Oh, that's cute." And he goes, "We recorded that sound in Yosemite National Park." And I go, "Don't ever say that to anybody else, please."
So you've driven Rivian R10T?
Yes, we've
S
not
yet?
done the S yet. No,
Okay.
just the T.
Yeah,
but I mean, I imagine it's similar vibe, right?
Yeah, R1S is very close to R1T. I think R1T is better, my own impression.
I think Johnny said the same thing. We've heard that from a couple. Oh, and Kamisa.
Oh, yeah.
He said the ride is
Okay.
much better than the T.
Yeah, the ride is the big thing, for sure.
Because they changed the wheelbase.
Yeah, and I haven't driven it. I guess they software updated the suspension on the R1S
Someone
to be a bit better.
at Rivian texted me because we talked about this with Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
You can now, in an update, have the car in the regular suspension mode and the range.
Conserve, yep.
Yeah, the two-wheel drive
Nice.
mode, which is something we complained about.
It was a software update.
Yeah.
Thought the same thing when I had the review truck. When I got mine, it came...
Like, why do I need to slam it on fucking cut springs in order to get...
Dude, they ride like crap. But also they made that lowest ride height better.
Oh, they did?
It's not... You know, it still rides like crap, but it's not like you're on the bump stops the whole time.
It felt like cut springs.
Yep,
But
totally.
like in the city, I want to drive on two-wheel drive mode and regular suspension.
It doesn't actually save you that much range
really?
using conserve.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the two-wheel versus four-wheel thing, I find, at least for my truck, because we're going to keep it for a while, I'm like, well, we're just putting more stress into the front motors. We'll just keep it locked up all the time. But they physically disconnect the rear motors.
Yeah.
Because they're all permanent magnet motors. So they have flux-related losses, unlike an induction motor. So there's a clutch back there that if you unlock and lock a bunch of times, I imagine...
Oh, yeah, I remember that. You could hear it unlocking when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, owning the Rivian has been an eye-opening experience as to how to take care of your customers. They do the best updates. They give you all the details. They have little events. It's just as an owner of one, they've done an amazing job.
Did
of
you go to
supporting
the
that truck.
place in Venice while you were here?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Take a little gardening class, something?
I haven't done anything like that, but went there, filmed a video. I thought that was neat. I don't think it that's a lot of money to spend on something that you're just ultimately housing people for free.
The building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really understand the point of it, except that I think if you're not going to have dealerships, then
Sure, it's a
maybe
touch point.
you'll sell some trucks in Venice to those people. But
They don't have a sales problem at the moment.
what do they do if they have to service your car? Come pick it up and take it.
It's had to go in a couple times, and I just bring it. They offer to come to my house.
What did it have to go in for? Because earlier you said it's been very reliable.
Yeah, it's been reliable. I had to do that recall that everyone had to do. Took 3
tonneau
minutes.
cover?
No, it was like a suspension bolt situation.
Oh, yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah.
Check the torque of your suspension bolts or something.
Yep. So I just was down in I live 1 hour north of Denver in Fort Collins. So I was down in Denver anyway, and I drove by, no appointment. They just torque wrench, boop, done. Super easy.
Where did you drive by?
There's a service center in Denver.
There is? Okay.
In Denver, every other car's a Rivian.
Huh.
I've
makes
only
sense.
seen one here in California this week. You can't drive down the street without seeing 5.
Oh, really?
In Colorado.
Oh, interesting.
They must have prioritized our market or something because Rivians are in every corner.
There are a bunch of them here. I see at least a few a day.
I mean, that's the
But it's just
carabiner market. Like,
Yeah.
it just is.
But I guess the most recent thing that happened was, sometimes when you park cars with air suspension, they'll settle down over time. So I posted on Twitter, I was gone for a week or whatever. My truck was just sitting on the bump stops.
Oh.
And so got a call from Rivian, and they said, hey, we saw your Twitter post. Why don't you schedule a service appointment? So
When you started the car, did it raise back up?
it was fine. But I must have had a low leak somewhere. Temperature also dropped a lot, so I don't know. I didn't
Sure.
think anything much of it, at least. But scheduled the appointment through the app. The service center called and was like, oh, actually, we don't see any issue with your truck. You're good to go. But I'm like, well, someone at Rivian said that they checked into my truck and I gave them permission to access and they want you to look at it. And so then I go to pick up the truck a couple days later from the service center. They're like, we've replaced all air compressors and your left rear strut. And I'm like, there wasn't anything wrong, was there? And they're like, no.
No, but you have a Twitter account with a lot of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little, I was like, okay, yep. They
Yeah.
definitely did not, they just wanted to take care of that all stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. But the truck's been, that's my daily driver.
And you've towed with it.
A lot. A lot of towing.
Even though we did just say that it's not really good for that, but like, what has your actual real world experience been?
The
what are you towing
driving-
and where?
Yeah, I mean, average weight's probably 6,000 to 8,000 pounds on the back.
Okay.
So a 20-something foot long trailer with usually a car or two on the back. So I towed a Lucid from Colorado to LA. I thought I'd make a good video, so we put a Lucid on the back. And the truck towing portion has all the power in the world, all the stability. The suspension compensates for a whole bunch of stuff. It's got the hydraulic things. Tows better than the F-150 Lightning, actually, from a stability standpoint. The range isn't that bad while towing.
Do you think the
At least my
stability is
trailer.
better because it has the extra motors versus the Lightning, or it's just software?
Suspension.
Oh, it's got because of the magic
it's
suspension.
It's a F-150 with soft suspension. It
Sure.
squats down. You can feel it float. It's not bad.
I mean, the Lightning is an F-150.
Yep.
It's every bit of an F1. When we drove it at Pikes Peak, it was like, oh.
Yeah,
this
you
is
had the red one there.
Yeah. Like,
So we did a lot with that truck. Sorry.
yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
It was.
It all
I mean, it was an
works. Yeah,
excellent product, but like it drives like a fucking F-150, whereas the Rivian has that real luxury car. The McLaren suspension.
Totally. As a one vehicle solution, I don't think the Rivian can be beat.
Yeah.
Because it's really great in the canyons. I mean, it rips.
It's shockingly fast.
It's
Yeah, I remember that.
unbelievable. And it actually gets too stiff. Like, I backed the suspension off a little bit.
I remember. Didn't we do that? We
Yep.
put it in regular suspension mode with performance
Yep.
drive
Well, because
mode.
sport mode, you'd hit a bump and then your foot would bounce and then you'd accelerate. and
Oh,
then you'd
Yes.
the
bounce.
fucking bouncy pedal. Yeah.
The pedal is
bouncy
bad in the
pedal.
truck.
Yeah.
And there's no software
It's
update
just
to fix that.
responsive. It's
but
like
it's
a little
also
bit just
super
responsive.
long. So to get to wide open throttle, you're like extending your
Yeah.
foot.
But the handling was good and the steering feel was good. Which
Steering's
was
amazing.
impressive, very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have the sport wheels on yours? The 22s?
No, we had the 20s.
Oh, even though
Yeah.
the 20s is good. I have the
Which was
22s
fine.
on mine.
Yeah.
And really good at that.
It ripped. I mean, the drive-bys were very quick. We were on a fairly tight canyon, and
Yeah.
we were like, this
It
is like
was
a
really
lifted
fast.
GTR.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it was fast.
if you just need one car to do it all, that's that. It's got plenty of range. The only issues with the Rivian from my usage are sometimes the bed's not big enough. Like a Lightning would be better. I wish they had more power outlets on the truck so I could do 240 volt out, all that stuff that Lightning's got.
They've got
That
outlets.
rocks.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, like we brought our Twizzy up to the mountains and I could not charge it while I was up there unless I had a Lightning. That would have been, because I need 240 volt power for it. And
so will that run a level 2 charger?
The F-150?
Yeah.
You can plug itself into itself. So you can do 240 volt out through a charger and then plug it into the charge port and do this continuous loop of just slight losses.
Really?
Yes.
But so the Twizzy, you can't plug it into a 110?
No, because it has a Euro charger.
Oh.
Yeah, it's technically 230, but our 240 is pretty close. It works on 208 as well, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the Twizzy's awesome. I got to bring that out here at some point.
Was it imported as some test vehicle from like Bosch or one of those guys?
Yeah, the name of the company escapes me who brought it in. Nimbus was what it was. But, the Twizzy's actually been my legitimate dream car. This is everything I've dreamed of owning. I don't know why, but I love it.
They're weird. When you see them in Europe, they're very funky.
How could you have a bad day driving that thing around? You know what I mean? So I was like, I've always said to our audience, if you ever see one for sale, I know there were some in the U.S., tag me because I will, whatever it is, I don't care what the price is, I'm buying that thing.
How much was it?
$9,000.
Oh.
Yeah, not bad.
That's like what, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean.
That's like fucking throwaway money for something that awesome.
So I was like, I'll pay $30,000 for this thing. So it was on eBay and I just hit like, oh my God, buy now.
Yeah.
And I woke up from a nap and we were driving somewhere and I was just like, oh, load up the email. Holy smokes.
Wow.
And it was in Michigan. And while I was picking it up, they had some other cool stuff there. So I bought something called a Carver, which I haven't told our audience yet. Yeah.
You bought a Carver?
I bought a Carver.
That's hilarious.
And so I haven't told this. I'm making the announcement about a Carver. Yeah.
Weird connection. Wesley Snipes drives a Carver in Demolition Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the Carver,
it's a leaning trike.
Yeah. So it's the slow one. It's the only one in the U.S. is my understanding. And so I got the Carver. I don't know. It's got like 4 kilowatt output. So it's, what's that?
They made
9 horsepower?
They made a gas one before.
Early.
Yeah, that was in the 90s. They had a gas one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what Wesley Snipes was driving in Demolition Man. This is the electric one.
This fully electric. I think it's pretty slow. It's just a novelty thing. But it was just there. I'm like, what is this doing here? And they're like, we're selling
I'll
it too.
take this too.
Yeah. So I got to go back to Michigan.
It is kind of funky. Is it? Have you driven it yet?
No.
Okay.
I can't imagine what I would do with it, to be honest, but just drive around the parking lot.
That's pretty crazy.
I mean, would you run about town just like you would in the Twizzy? Or
I don't know how I'm going to register that.
Someone asked that on your page actually about the Twizzy. Did you register that or no?
I've just been driving it.
Oh, no plates, no problem.
Yeah,
I mean, in the snow
wait,
here.
so
like
the Twizzy, like, was it registered ever in America?
No, it has a German title, but it's legal to be here, but it's not an American titled car.
Okay.
So it's technically allowed to be here for engineering evaluation. I'm like, well, who's to say we aren't evaluating?
It's on vacation, but it can't get a work visa.
Yeah, right. Yes, basically 100%. So, I mean, like, we can drive it around on private property. We took it up to a snow course up in Copper Mountain this week. We were doing big skids with it. It was great.
I mean, well, I don't know how it is in Colorado, but you go through enough cars that you are purchasing that you should really become a dealer.
No, this is the idea, or actually a manufacturer.
Because you're manufacturing something?
Well, we have the intent, maybe. Well, who's to say we don't have the intent? And we're only benchmarking the finest cars, which would be a Twizzy and a Carver. And then I want to get a Citroen Me.
I mean, that would be ballsy. If you got an M plate, that would be amazing.
How hard can it be? You see all these crappy little companies have M plates that don't have a product.
That's interesting. I don't know. I've never even looked into
R34 GTRs. M plates.
You do that on a dealer plate too.
Oh, dealer?
Yeah,
Okay.
you get a dealer tag.
So I don't think it's actually going to be hard to figure this out. I haven't put the time into it.
Yeah, just become a dealer. You'll solve that in 2 seconds.
So that's kind of the idea. And
that's pretty fun. $9,000? That's a lot of car for $9,000.
Dude, it's made so many people so happy.
Yeah.
And it's just...
is it actually fun to drive?
Yeah.
Other than being like weird and stupid?
Well, we just tuned it. So
how do you tune it?
They make a tuning box for it so you can unlock the power. And there's this dude in Norway who chops up iPace batteries and gives you like twice the battery capacity. So you go from
Really?
6 kilowatt hour to 13.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he has a motor upgrade so we can have a race Twizzy.
Oh, so you're buying all that shit.
Oh, all of it. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to ship it
How
yet.
do you ship that?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
I don't know. But I don't know. I just love the
Maybe you
Twizzy.
could come. Maybe you could bring him to Colorado, and you could buy your own iPace and chop it up locally.
That'd make a good video.
Yeah.
I bought.
You could work with Rich Rebuilds.
Yeah, I know
Maybe,
Rich really well.
maybe the
Yeah.
guy could give Rich the kit, and Rich could chop up an iPace for you.
Well, Rich has a business called Electrified Garage.
Right.
And they do EV servicing and
And they fix like
transplants.
salvage fucking garbage cars and stuff.
Yep, it's pretty cool. Yeah, we're friends with all those guys. They do great work, honestly. A lot of options for the Twizzy, but
Awesome.
yeah, love that thing. Had a
Fits
great
in the
trip.
bed of a Rivian, amazingly enough.
Really does.
And the rear end is not sagging.
Well, it's got air suspension.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it compensates.
How about
It only
that?
weighs
What-
1,000 pounds. Well, I'm well under payload.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it weighs nothing. You and I could pick that thing up.
That rules.
Yeah. I guess the cool thing about being on this show is we don't necessarily have to talk about electric cars, which is, I feel, sometimes boxed into my world of my audience only cares about EVs.
I mean, it's
Well, it sounds like you're building an EV content empire with the goal of buying R34 Skylines.
I don't necessarily want an R34.
that's like
but-
when I met Mate Ramatz,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What is your dream car?" He's like, "Carrera GT."
Yeah.
I was like, "So you're gonna sell all these EVs so you can buy Carrera GT?" He's like, "Yes, exactly."
But I think that's kind of the thing. There's very few, so like EV content creators out there typically come from the tech world.
Right.
And they're just now getting into cars. And there's very
Yeah.
few of, maybe a handful of maybe 5 or 6 of guys like me who came from the combustion enthusiast world and is trying to figure out what EVs can be.
Sure.
So I'm trying to assemble slowly but surely like the dream collection of cars from when I was growing up, like what my parents were driving. So like, nice cars from 20 years ago. So I bought an LS 400 for $5
Great car.
grand.
Great choice.
Great
Yep,
car.
Love
Truly.
it. And bought it from a guy here, Driven Dave on YouTube. Shout out. Dave's awesome. And things got 230,000 miles. As you would know, they run forever.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
not. You're just getting going.
Just out of break-in period. Sits at 150 like nothing. It's amazing how great that car
Yeah,
is.
it is one of the best cars ever made.
Yep. And so that's pretty cool. And then just kind of shopping for random old 7 Series that are going to break the bank with repairs.
Oh, E38s.
That's why you're going the other
Yeah.
way. You like
yeah,
the
and
big
even the
luxury.
generation after that, the Bengal butt stuff.
Oh, you don't want one of those.
Yeah, I kind of do because I think it'd make an interesting YouTube story.
They're just not good.
Yeah.
They're not even a great one is just not. It doesn't look good. They don't drive particularly well. The interfaces aren't good. Like an E38, at least it's like, well, that's a gorgeous.
That's the most
car.
beautiful BMW
Yeah,
of
it's
all
a
time.
gorgeous
Yes,
car,
I
and
agree.
like it's the 2002 car. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
just
love it.
not a good car.
I love it.
Even a
And-
best case scenario, it's not a good car.
So I'm looking for those, looking for like the Jag XJRs of that generation. And they're all of these cars
they're
are like
actually
10 grand
made
or less.
pretty well. That era XJ is a reasonably well made car. Yeah, that 7 Series.
And I
was
just remember
trash.
I remember the press footage of the XJR full skids with their chief engineer. And
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know, 10-year-old Kyle watching this being like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So just want to have like the weird collection of cheap old
Yeah,
cars
skip,
around.
skip these.
No,
these
I gotta have
7
one of those.
series. They
It's a good
suck.
thing that Kyle's very familiar with electricity and how it works because there's going to be a lot of problems you're going to have
Yeah.
to find. And,
I'm
like,
not
you're
a
gonna have to sort a lot
good,
of shit out.
Yeah, not a good
I feel
mechanic.
you on some level, but not
Yeah,
this
yeah.
BMW. My dad had
Yeah.
one. It was a fucking shitbox.
Yeah, we had
It
some in
was
our
awful.
family. Yeah.
Did Spinelli ditch his Jag? You still have that thing?
I think he still has it.
Is that what he was driving?
Yeah.
He's got an
It was
XJR.
nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
He had to
Very
go in
nice.
for some repairs for a little bit, but he drove it for like 4 years.
It might
minimal
even be a
problems.
100. I don't know. His could be a 100.
I'd have to look.
I don't
I
know,
gotta-
but me and
but they're
Chris Harris
gorgeous.
pressured him into buying it.
That's cool. I
You
got
guys bought it while he was in the bathroom using his account, I think. Or like he bid it up.
No, we were bidding on it while he was logged in
On
to
like a
bring a
Bring a
trailer.
Trailer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, I
We
spend
thought
all
that would be
day on
funny.
Bring a Trailer
and then
and
he
Cars
bought a
and Beans.
Jaguar.
That's awesome.
Let's go to the Patreon. We have some things? I bet we do. If you want to ask questions of our guests, catch our show live. And speaking of live, we got a doubleheader today. We've got Mr. Ian Tyrrell of Ian Tyrrell's Workshop in England is coming in at 2 o'clock Pacific. Here we go. $10 homie. Someone listens to Are You Garbage. Are You Garbage posted the funniest clip I've ever fucking heard this morning, which was, is it garbage if you're a cop and have arrested members of your own family? And the response to that is fucking incredible. You should listen to Are You Garbage if you haven't. It's
not familiar.
Great podcast.
Okay.
Do you, Ranger Danger, do you believe that we as consumers are going to have to become proficient with all of the electric battery jargon to have a good EV ownership experience? Or is this language comparable to non-EV enthusiasts have a deeper interest in their car? Interesting, but not necessary for functional everyday use. Good question.
Yeah, great question. I think at the end of the day, people are going to charge at home. Yeah. They're going to see a range number on their dash and know that's how far it can go. An EV is simpler to operate than a combustion vehicle. You put it in D and go. There's no shifting. There's no warm-up time. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to see less knowledge when it comes to electric vehicle ownership than even combustion.
I kind of agree. I mean, the people who are, for every Kyle or Jason Fensky or even me, who is definitely a step below that, you've got people like my wife or just some fucking Hollywood executive or some random LMU college student up here driving a Tesla, and it's just, how many miles do I have and how many minutes remain on my charging experience?
Yep.
And that's pretty much all they need to know.
And that's all that should matter. Every electric car needs three things, which is good route planning. So if you have to take a trip, it will tell you where to stop and where the stops need to be. You need stations available. Yeah. It needs to precondition the battery on the way there so it's warm and ready to charge fast, especially in wintertime in Colorado.
And
that's a big issue.
It needs to prioritize quick chargers.
Yeah, it needs to have great route planning. Yeah, ID4 has terrible route planning. Yeah. And then it needs to have plug and charge where you don't need an app, you don't need a credit card, you plug in and it juices. And that will make EVs work.
Plug and charge works for me about 50% of the time.
Yeah, it's called ISO 15118 and there's a lot of certificate communication issues with it. It's annoying.
Yeah. Lucas says, what happened to discounted insurance with the installation of OBD2 sensors that report on your driving? It seemed like an imminent dystopian future, but it seems to have fizzled. I remember being offered that thing. I forget what it was called. It was called...
Yep, not sure.
I forget. I remember being offered it, but I had no interest in actually doing it, and I think they've stopped.
Progressives was called Snapshot Rewards for your good driving.
Yeah.
So you just plug a thing in and...
Yeah, are they not doing that anymore? I thought they were.
They probably still are.
I think they stopped advertising it as much, but that's just how things work.
Tesla offers their own insurance now?
I'm sure they do.
And they penalize you if you drive after 10 p.m.
Really?
Yep.
Because more accidents
happen.
I
would never put it on my car. I don't need them having all that data.
They probably do have
They have
that
the data,
already,
but they're not insuring me.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't know what would happen if they saw how our car's used on track and stuff.
Sure.
And then we go to insure with no clue.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember being offered that progressive snapshot thing and being like, fuck no.
Right.
And I would say do not allow an insurance company to install a tracking device on your car.
Yep.
Dave Kerwood. Question for Kyle. What emerging safety features can we expect to see in EVs from a firefighting perspective? Our first responders are having a heck of a time dealing with EV fires because of all the other problems.
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of EV lovers will say the percentage of battery fires is so much less than a combustion vehicle and you're driving around with a tank full of combustible fluid compared to a battery pack. However, he's really onto something here. Fighting an EV fire is difficult in the sense that they require a ton of water. And so
tens of thousands of gallons. Or
a lot more.
I don't know the number.
I remember I read about a fire in LA and it was just they hook the hose up to the hydrant and just sit there for hours, just dumping water on it.
When you have a thermal runaway of a battery, it just doesn't really stop. So in Europe, they actually have these tanks they dump the whole car in. Like shipping containers.
Holy shit.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
It's like one of those bomb disposal units.
So I think at the end of the day, yes, it happens.
So they bring
infrequently.
a tanker truck full of water and then crane the fucking burning car and dunk it in the tank?
It's something like that. I mean,
that's crazy.
I overshot. It was 6,000 gallons.
6,000.
I heard about California.
That. Yeah.
That's like a pool.
Yeah. It requires a ton of water.
Yeah.
But they happen infrequently, but I think there's really not enough training as to how to take care of it. And then different batteries burn differently. LFP should have different characteristics than NCM. LFP doesn't really catch on fire I don't know what happens if it does or if it can. Not an expert.
Demolition Man tells us that the cars will turn into cannolis. Secure phone. You can always go to Demolition Man to see what the future is. Sean Finney says, electric cars are often criticized for not having the character of their internal combustion counterparts. How would you add character to an electric car? I wouldn't.
Totally agree.
I would really emphasize the other virtues of an electric car. There are a bunch of times in my driving life where I want fucking silence and I want smoothness and I don't want vibrations. I spend most of my life in goddamn traffic and I am more relaxed when I get somewhere in an electric car than when I get somewhere in a gas car.
Totally. Right there with you. Couldn't have said it better. At the end of the day, if you want experience, buy a combustion car for the weekends.
Yeah.
Have that. I'll be the last one with the manual transmission. You can't rip it from me. You know what I mean? But for daily driving, yeah. Electric,
Sure.
Don't make it anything other than it is.
Richard H. says, principles or pragmatism? Basically, can't stand the culture of Tesla, but am tempted to lease a rear-wheel drive Model 3 for $400 a month. I'm not thrilled about the lack of this and that it comes with, but it seems like I could get that car for what a Civic goes for, and as an everyday economy car, not a bad choice. What should I do?
Yeah, well, to be honest, we, as someone who has a YouTube audience, we have people who are Elon super fans and people who absolutely hate Elon. But when you drive the car, for me, and this is just me speaking, I'm not really thinking about the company. I'm not thinking about the guy who creates the company. There are annoying things. And if you drive a Tesla, you do get a little bit of the like Elon super fan vibe. At the end of the day, the Model 3, to be totally honest, is at the top of my recommend list for an EV because it's the easiest car to own. You have the best app, everything works, best charging network, good driver assistance, not for full self-driving, but for basic driving. And for $400 a month, get a Model 3 LFP battery, full charge that thing every day. It's a great car.
Do you think, you were saying earlier that the Model 3s seem like they're nicer and the quality's gone up and the S's has gone down. Do you think that's because they know that their volume sales are Model 3s and Model Ys, and let's impress new customers, whereas the luxury space is getting more competitive, so they're pulling resources out of that? Or
it's hard to say. I mean, the car is simpler, so there's less stuff to go wrong. There's less points of rattle, things like that. The Model S has a huge hatchback in the back, which is that's where most of the rattles come from in mine and my dad, who also had a Model S. I think it's a production numbers thing. They just build a lot more Model 3s and Ys and have been able to, we've seen it because we've reviewed cars from, 5 years ago to now. Every few months we take a look at them and they've just gotten better. They went through a period where they were really bad, like 2019-ish was really bad. But now they're really solid vehicles. And they drive great, to be honest. My impression is I think the Model 3 is my automotive reset. If I review a car and it can't match what a Model 3 can do, it's like, okay, that's the benchmark.
Sure. Jake says, what is the most underrated or forgotten EV for sale currently? Example, the e-Golf. Seems like Volkswagen doesn't market them when they could be a huge hit.
Well, e-Golf's not on sale anymore. But e-tron.
E-tron, not the GT, the regular e-tron.
Yeah, I have a full-size e-tron, and it's the most comfortable car you can imagine. It charges amazing, just 150 kilowatts to 80% and beyond. And no one thinks about it.
It's a relatively short range, though, right?
Terrible range.
So why does it charge so well, but it doesn't have the range?
Yeah, well, they're not really a metric of each other. e-tron's so heavy and it's an early EV, it's not super efficient from a design perspective. Actually, we think Audi went out of their way to make it inefficient. I don't know how you could make a car drink so much juice. It's terrible. But what you make up for it is in a Tesla, they charge really fast to about 35%. In my Model S, it comes off of peak at around 33%. The e-tron holds its peak charging rate all the way deep into the battery pack. So in a normal electric car, you're leaving charging stations, like our cannonballing method was pull out at 30-40% and arrived in the next station dead. But in an e-tron, you can actually charge fast all the way deap. So your actual road tripping time is no different. You're just using deeper cycles.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, It's a great car. It really is.
Okay. Sam Hotchkiss. Given the rise of strong competition with better build quality and without the baggage of Elon, what do you think the future of Tesla looks like? Will they still be making cars in 10 years? I had a 15 Model S, now drive a Rivian, and will likely never buy another Tesla. I mean, they'll probably still be making cars in 10 years.
I think they will be. I mean,
they'll probably still be making these cars in 10 years.
It's possible. Model 3 is apparently just about to get a refresh. Ooh. I think Tesla's energy business is where it's at, personally. I don't invest in automakers. I don't, as someone who reviews stuff, I don't take anything from them, and I don't invest in them. So I have no financial ties to this. But I think their energy business is going to be really awesome in just a few years. Their mega packs, their grid scale stuff, the way that they integrate. Honestly, if Tesla wants to make a killing with EVs, they should package up their superchargers and sell it to third parties.
That's not. They have a supercharger like kit they're installing now, right? That's like a prefab
genius
supercharger.
The
system.
Cars are great, but where Tesla is really excelling is in their energy business, their charging products. I don't know about their solar, but their stationary energy
the
storage.
kind of like not real.
Yeah, I don't hear many installs of that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Ivan Capote, what useful features should we retrofit into older ICE cars besides batteries and motors from EVs? Wait, what cool features can we put into retrofit older cars? I mean,
besides those, EVs are basically the same as combustion cars. Like the window switches and all of those other things are.
I would say nothing.
I was going to say nothing.
Yeah. I don't
keep them old.
I don't want. Yeah, I don't need that. I mean, I don't need that. I'm gonna go with nothing, Ivan. Sorry. Tim says, is the Rivian slide-out kitchen a real product consumers can buy? I've only ever seen it in Rivian promotional vehicle videos or overlanding expos. I'm sure it is, but how many people really want a kitchen in their car?
No, they're not making it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or at least it's delayed indefinitely or something
really?
like that. A lot of their accessories are delayed indefinitely. I ordered it with my truck, and they're like, if you want it, you got to delete that thing.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was wrong. So why do you think the holdup is? Is there a supply chain issue, or is it just...
I have no idea. Rivian's a startup company. I think they spend a lot of time on their marketing, their presentation, their perfect ideal world. And honestly, they put their time into building a really solid product. The R1S and R1T are fantastic, but a lot of the accessories from them don't exist.
Oh, wow. How interesting. Mm-hmm. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, or at least yet. I think the plan is for them still to come. I don't know.
Okay. James King says, which do you like, the electric Smart or the Twizzy? Which do you prefer? I think it's got to be the Twizzy.
Yeah, for sure.
Last question, Derek Yegan. Thoughts on BMW's color-changing body panels? I'm into it mainly because of police evasion.
That's awesome.
It was a red BMW 7 Series, and I saw a Cannonball run too.
Yep.
I know how this shit works, bro.
I think it's cool. I love new tech into cars, but for me, it's all about the mechanicals that excite me.
Yeah, I mean, and also we've been able to wrap cars. Yeah. So it's like you could change the color of your car.
Expensive.
I realize you can change it in real time, but imagine getting into a crash with that. How expensive it would be to fix that.
I interviewed the woman who created it for a video. Yeah, she was really cool. I think she was Australian or South African. I can't remember her name. She was brilliant. Super, super brilliant. And I did it when the iX had the black and white color thing.
Right.
And then this year at CES, they did the multiple color panels. Mm-hmm. And they really are going in on these things. But personally, it's a concept. I really hate concepts. So
I mean, it seems like every couple of years there's a company that says, like, look at the color changing body panels. I remember maybe 5 years ago a company had cameras on one side of the car, and then they were driving and had all these screens, and then it would just like show what's behind the car, in front of the car, and then it would like disappear. And it's just, I don't know, it's an interesting thing to show tech. I think if they made this cheap, it would be super popular because people would love to change their car's color like every day, like shoes. But the cost, the weight, wires, battery drain, like all these things, it just seems like it would be a long ways away.
Yeah,
Very,
it doesn't
very,
seem
very expensive
practical in any way.
No.
Sorry, excuse me.
But luxurious things rarely are.
I was just up at Canapa's, Bruce Canapa's, and he was showing me a car he had in his museum, which was a Porsche 907 race car.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
1966 or 67, 8-cylinder car, prototype shape, beautiful car, and he showed this a number plate on the side of the car that lit up, and it didn't have light bulbs behind it. It didn't have a light shining on it. It was a glowing number plate, built into the door from 1967 for Le Mans.
Really?
Yeah.
So like weight wasn't a consideration for that?
No, it was very thin, and somehow they had electrodes in there, and
Wow.
it was very light. It didn't change, and the car was like 1,400 pounds or something.
That's
it was
amazing.
cool as fuck.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it was awesome. It was like an actual illuminated body panel.
You've been doing a lot of NASCAR stuff.
I mean, we've
you
done
went
a
to a
little bit.
race.
We
and
went
stuff,
to a
Do you
little
think
bit.
there's more they could do with the lighting on the side of the cars? Make it more exciting? Like show a giant first place or second place on the car, stuff
Well,
like that?
I thought they did it. I mean, they do a very good job with the jumbotrons.
Yes.
So
Amazing.
I mean, at the Coliseum, you don't really need to see that because you could see on the jumbotron. For endurance racing, I think they're experimenting with stuff like that, where it shows what
I've
place
seen that.
they're in.
Yep.
You know, it depends entirely on if it's legible at 200 miles an hour. You know, I don't
That's
know.
a good point.
I don't know.
These
if you
things are
can-
freaking ripping. They're not
flying
just
by.
standing there.
So I mean, I think a static display, if you're at a race, is probably just as good, if not better, than having it on the car. I mean, I think there's fun things they could do with lighting in general, but yeah. I think the reason that it works for the endurance racing is because very often they're at tracks. You know, a NASCAR circuit is lit like it's a stadium. It's a big stadium. So the whole track is super lit up. You know, you can really see very well, and they have jumbotrons and that big tower thing. If you're on the side of the fucking Mulsanne Strait or somewhere, you know, at Le Mans in the middle of the night or Sebring,
Yep.
And you can't see any of those centralized things, I think it makes more sense for those cars.
What about electric racing? Have you seen Formula E?
I have. I
It's
don't find
so
it to
boring.
be particularly
Yeah.
interesting.
It
It's to be
sucks.
very boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's places where it makes so much sense, like Pikes Peak.
Totally.
You know, the electric cars are really fast up Pikes Peak, and the fact that they don't have that. Why are they running in experimental class or some shit? Why is there not an EV class? There's like 14 classes at Pikes
There
Peak.
will be soon.
Yeah.
I mean,
It just-
And there's no
surprisingly,
chargers
yeah.
there either. There's no support for EVs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they
they
have to bring
they could roll up with that Optima rig that they're using
Yeah.
for
Hammer.
King of the Hammers.
Yep.
You know, they're a portable-ish. It's not particularly environmentally friendly to run these diesel generators, but it's not any worse than just a regular semi truck.
Sure.
For the event.
I think it works like Nitro Rallycross is starting to use
Yeah.
the EV rally
Yeah.
cars, right? And for that, like the racing is so exciting to me, and there's jumps and sliding and contact
And
that
they
they don't
sound
give a shit
cool.
about, and they
You hear
sound
the
cool.
motors on those
Yeah.
things?
It
They're
works for that.
insane.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with Formula E, when the racing is so neat and tidy, like Formula One tends to be, and it's so quiet,
Yeah.
it's like you've removed one of the last pieces of drama from wheel-to-wheel racing, which is
Yeah.
the sound, and now it's just like neat and tidy, and then the weird voting system with like points and acceleration, and that was a mess.
I
Yeah.
think the big miss for Formula E was there was no lineage back to a production car to show that something was developed
Yeah.
with Formula E and made it into a production car. With Formula One, there's a ton of that.
Sure.
Like Mercedes turbocharging tech coming
Right.
from Formula One, all that stuff. It's
Dual
pretty
clutch
cool.
transmission.
But it has to start with good racing, with entertaining
Yeah.
racing. If
Sure.
the racing's not entertaining, and you know who else gives a shit. Another fun alternative thing I learned from Canepa this past week. He has an Audi R10 TDI.
Oh, man.
So cool.
He has the only one that's owned by anybody outside of Audi, and the only one in private hands.
Wow.
And he said he's trying to figure out how to make it run, and. And he says, he goes, you want to hear something funny? He goes, when I bought this, the first thing he told me is, don't put diesel in this. And he goes, what do you mean? I thought it's diesel. And they're like, look, it is compression ignition like a diesel, but this car does not run on diesel.
No way.
Really?
It runs on some fucking crazy chemical that is most certainly not diesel.
I had no
And
idea.
yeah, shocking, right?
why-
That they're-
why-
Yeah, of course. This is true. This is back in the diesel days.
Did Audi buy them all back? Because I remember seeing videos of these with like tunes on them, and they were fast as fuck.
No,
like,
it's just
I'm
a
talking about the
race
race
car.
cars, the Le Mans car, the car that won.
You're talking about,
the-
I don't
Were you
know
thinking
why.
like Touareg
No,
type
no,
V10
no.
You got so loud, so
No,
like,
no, no. I'm
yeah.
talking about the car that won Le
That is
Mans
a
like
huge
for
miss.
6 years in a row.
Okay, I'm with you now.
That like
I'm on the
Tom
bus.
Christensen and Alan McNish were driving. Yeah, the prototype, open top prototype
All right.
diesel race car.
Those were cool.
That does not run on diesel.
But it says TDI on the side.
Yeah, it
to
runs
mark
on
it.
some
Yeah.
diesel adjacent
Yes. It was-
thing.
It was the show car for when Audi wanted to TDI the world.
Right.
They had like the A3, Q7,
Dude,
Q5.
JF and I went on the Audi mileage marathon, which in hindsight was like the biggest fucking scam.
What's a
going.
mileage marathon?
The press launch was journalists like relay racing these cars across the whole country.
Interesting.
It was like a roving press launch for a week.
Wow,
And so
that's a big
JF and I
program.
drove from New York to St. Louis
Oh,
or
so you did a
something.
leg.
We did a leg, and then the next journalist took the car and kept going, and it was like whoever got the best fuel economy, and JF and I got I think we got 36 miles a gallon in a Q7 or something.
wow.
Which look, my mom had a diesel, a Q7. It was fucking awesome.
They are everywhere in Colorado.
It was awesome.
You don't see any older Q7s except the TDI ones because
Yeah.
we're the last time
They're
before
like gold,
Wyoming.
them things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like peak Wyoming wealth when you roll up in a Q7 TDI.
If you have a Touareg V10 TDI,
We got a few
it's
in town.
still worth like $70,000.
They're awesome.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
I love those things.
Well, we got to end because we got to do another show.
Yep.
I'm sorry. We have a doubleheader today on Sunday. But thanks for coming back and doing radio with us, Kyle. It's always good to get your perspective. You have a lot of expertise in this area, and you're trying to do the right thing. And
Thank you.
And I don't even know what to plug.
Don't plug anything. Don't worry
Virtual
about it.
Kyle on Instagram.
I'll use
Out of
Instagram
Spec reviews. Out of Spec on Twitter. It's Kyle Connor on Twitter.
That's the one.
Rate Your Charge.
Yeah, everyone, Rate Your Charge.
Yeah, if you,
That's what we're building.
If you are charging out in the wild, Rate Your Charge for sure. And whole lot of shit going on. Can't wait to see more adventures with the Twizzy. It looks like a fun in the snow. That seems rad.
We're going to do a bunch with it. I think at the end of the day, just on a final thought note, EVs, early days. It's rocky, but I think
Sure.
at the end of it, I'm not sure electric is the end-all, be-all solution, but I can see this working. But a lot of work needs to be done, not so much on the vehicle side, but of course the full support on the back end.
Yeah. I mean, they need to get. Whenever I'm at a charger, someone inevitably bitches at me about it not working fast enough or well enough.
There's always a story.
and I kind of go, yeah, we're 10 years from this being really good.
I can't disagree.
But also, Americans, we have a bad habit of buying cars for the 105th percentile.
It's the Range Rover thing. I might need to go to the top of that mountain.
I need a truck because I might have to move a couch one day.
Right.
As opposed to this works for 95% of what I do, and I can rent another car, borrow another car, or somehow get another car for that other exceptional thing.
The perfect thing is a city EV. We need more of those.
Yeah.
And I'm not so much a hybrid guy. I think it's a bit unnecessary to have a combustion engine and an electric powertrain in one. But yeah, if you just have a little city EV to tool around that does 90% of your driving and then keep your old gas car for the long trips, that's a good solution, I think.
For sure. Thanks for coming, dude.
Thanks.
Good show. And for those of you who have nothing else to do with your Sunday, we're back at 2 o'clock Pacific in 50 minutes with Ian Tyrrell of Ian Tyrrell's Workshop. He famously keeps Mr. Harry Metcalf's Lamborghinis running. He also has a great YouTube channel. And we're going to talk about fucking the opposite of this. We're going to talk about old fucking Italian shit boxes that cost $1 million. That's what we're going to be doing.
I wish I was on that show. Ian's great.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. He's coming by in a little bit. And thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.